All right, let's peel back the layers on something truly captivating today.
Sounds good.
We're embarking on a deep dive into the mind of one of literature's most, well, notoriously unsettling characters.
Mm-hmm. Definitely unsettling.
Uh,
But relatable, too, in a strange way.
exactly. Dostoevsky's nameless narrator from Notes from Underground.
A classic.
Our sources for this exploration are the really insightful introduction and then parts 1 and 2 of the novella itself.
And it's the Pivir and Volokhonsky translation we're looking at.
That's the one. Brilliant translation.
Agreed. They really capture the voice.
And our journey today, it isn't just about, dissecting a 19th century novel.
No, it's much more than that.
It's about navigating the complex, often contradictory world of this underground man to unearth, well, surprising insights into human nature.
And society, too. Stuff that still echoes today, really.
Totally. Think of it as a shortcut, maybe, to understanding some of those hidden motivations that drive all of us. So the narrator just throws us right in, doesn't he? Headfirst into his world.
Absolutely, yeah. No gentle introduction there.
With that striking opening confession. I am a sick man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a wicked man, an unattractive man. And that pause, that ellipsis in the middle.
That pause is doing so much work. It's not just a gap.
Right. The introduction calls it less like a gap and more like a little window,
Like a crack in the floorboards, that's the phrase they use.
Yeah, giving us our very first glimpse into his, well, raw, unfiltered inner world.
And what's immediately fascinating about that opening and that pause is how Dostoevsky uses it.
How so?
To establish this profound sense of instability. It's like a constant argument inside his head.
A dialectic, the intro calls it, within his isolated consciousness.
Exactly. And this narrator, he isn't just talking to himself, he's acutely aware of us.
His imagined audience, yeah.
Constantly concerned with the impression his words are making. It's like he spent a lifetime watching from the shadows.
From his metaphorical hole.
Right, and he claims to have overheard it all, anticipated it all, invented it all.
As if he knows exactly what we're thinking before we even think it. It's quite unnerving. And he's certainly not your typical polished author, is he?
Oh, not at all.
The introduction calls him a passionate amateur writer.
Which fits perfectly.
Yeah.
His style is so unliterary.
Full of interruptions, outright defiance.
Constant tangents about his own writing process. It's almost chaotic.
And this defiant style, this refusal to play by the rules, it seems like a direct reflection of his heightened consciousness.
It really is. He's intensely aware, but also deeply conflicted,
Caught between his hostility to and dependence upon the words of others. Like, he needs language but hates it.
He's almost writing despite the very act of writing itself.
And that's where Dostoevsky's own genius comes in.
Precisely. The masterful controlling art of Dostoevsky remains at a second remove.
He's not endorsing the guy.
He's presenting him.
Exactly. And the humor is key here.
Yeah. How does the humor work?
Well, it's woven throughout, stylistic, situational, polemical, parodic, as the intro says.
And that humor creates critical distance. It stops the whole thing from just being a depressing tract, a case history, a cry of despair.
So it's not just a miserable rant.
No. This tonal distancing is a brilliant artistic technique. It lets Dostoevsky explore these extreme characters and ideas.
From different points of view without him having to personally own them.
Right. It makes it art.
His self-diagnosis is also pretty unsettling.
Mm-hmm. To be overly conscious is a sickness.
A real thorough sickness.
Yeah.
He genuinely believes he's more intelligent than everyone around me.
But then he immediately undercuts it.
Right, saying, an intelligent man of the 19th century must be primarily a characterless being.
It's exhausting just reading it. Such a contradiction.
And he even admits he lied about being a wicked official, says he
Yeah.
never even managed to become anything.
Neither wicked nor good, neither a scoundrel nor an honest man, neither a hero nor an insect.
Wow, that's a stark picture of just paralysis, unable to commit to any identity.
So you got to ask, right, why does he do this to himself? This really deep, self-inflicted torment.
It seems almost deliberate.
Well,
No.
he confesses to finding a secret, abnormal, mean little pleasure in it.
In returning to his corner.
And being highly conscious of having once again done a nasty thing that day.
Yeah. The pleasure here, he says, lies precisely in the too vivid consciousness of one's own humiliation.
It's perverse. He doesn't just endure despair. He seems to savor it.
Especially when all too highly conscious of the hopelessness of one's position.
It's a twisted feedback loop. Suffering, when you're hyper-aware of it, becomes its own weird reward.
So the insight for us is maybe that for some people, this excruciating awareness of self-inflicted pain, it can feel like a form of power or pleasure.
It certainly seems that way for him. A very twisted form, though.
This brings us to his famous defiance against what he calls the stone wall.
Ah, yes, the stone wall.
He equates this wall with the laws of nature, the conclusions of natural science, mathematics, things that are just absolute, unyielding.
Facts you can't argue with. 2 + 2 = 4.
Exactly. And for what he calls ingenuous people and active figures, this wall is actually comforting.
Something soothing, morally resolving, and final. It gives them closure, a sense of order.
But for our underground man, it's the opposite. So what happens when you confront an unyielding reality, a truth you just can't accept?
Well, this is where Dostoevsky's argument gets really provocative.
How so?
The underground man absolutely refuses to be reconciled with that stone wall. He won't just accept it.
Why not? What's more important?
He prioritizes independent wanting, whatever this independence may cost and wherever it may lead.
Independent wanting.
Yeah. He directly challenges the idea that humans always act purely for profit, or vygoda in Russian.
Which the translation notes clarify isn't just money, right? It's like prosperity, wealth, freedom, peace, rational self-interest.
Exactly. He argues there's one most profitable profit, which is cheaper and more profitable than all other profits. Something for which a man is ready to go against all laws. That is, against reason, honor, peace, prosperity.
Wow. Against everything rational.
Pretty much. This free and voluntary wanting, he insists, is what truly preserves our personality and our individuality.
So the core idea is that real human freedom, for Dostoevsky, means choosing the irrational sometimes.
Even choosing something harmful, just to prove you can choose, to assert your unique will against the stone wall.
He takes this even further with some pretty striking images.
The piano key.
Yeah, picturing man reduced to a piano key or a sprig in an organ, just a mechanism.
He's terrified that if science ever discovers the formula for all our wantings and caprices,
if everything we desire becomes predictable,
then humanity will simply stop wanting. We'd become automatons, controllable.
He vehemently insists man needs only independent wanting.
Needs it. He even provocatively suggests that man sometimes even positively must want against his own profit.
And that we actually love destruction and chaos as well.
Because he thinks we're instinctively afraid of achieving the goal and completing the edifice he is creating. We fear completion predictability.
It's a really radical defense of irrationality as, like, the core of being human.
And if we zoom out a bit, you have to understand the context here. Dostoevsky is directly polemicizing.
Engaging in a fierce argument, basically.
Right. Against the utopian socialist ideas of Nikolai Chernyshevsky, particularly his novel, What is to be Done?
And Chernyshevsky's philosophy of the rational egoist.
Exactly. The rational egoist believes people always act logically in their own self-interest.
There's that famous quote from Chernyshevsky's hero.
Yeah. What I want with all my heart is to make people happy. In this lies my happiness. Mine. Can you hear that you in your underground hole? He's directly challenging the underground man's worldview.
And Dostoevsky responds artistically.
Right. He shows that the real question of the very nature of the human being is much more complex than Chernyshevsky allows.
And the crystal palace the underground man mocks.
That's Dostoevsky's parodic take on Chernyshevsky's vision of a perfect, rational, ordered society, a sterile utopia.
So Dostoevsky felt that thinkers like Chernyshevsky, by prioritizing ideology over messy human reality,
led to a decomposition of the human person. He believed artistic form, correctly understood, permits content to be found and seen for the first time.
So art reveals truth that doesn't just illustrate a pre-existing ideology.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've explored his philosophy, his internal battles.
The why behind his thinking, yeah.
Now, to really understand how he got this way, Dostoevsky takes us back in time in part 2.
Apropos of the wet snow. A great title.
It shifts to the narrator's youth, about 20 years before the rants of part 1.
These are his actual notes about specific events, often humiliating ones.
He was 24 years old, describing himself as gloomy, disorderly, and solitary to the point of savagery.
Not a happy camper.
And his little debauches, his attempts at living life, were all done solitarily, by night, covertly, fearfully, filthily.
Yeah, that paints a picture, doesn't it?
What becomes clear here is this hysterical thirst for contradictions that drove him even then.
He read constantly, voraciously.
And this nourished his dreaming, offering an escape from petty squalor and inner anguish.
But crucially, the introduction points out this intellectual escape also led him deeper into the underground. It increased his isolation.
Right. And there's that distinction they make between the Russian romantic, like him,
And the translinary European romantic.
the Russian type, it says, understands everything, sees clearly, but is also a bit of a knave, a scoundrel.
Capable of holding on to the beautiful and lofty in his head.
While pursuing cynical, useful, practical goals, like
Yeah.
getting a nice little government apartment.
It's that deep split, ideals versus base actions, that really defines him.
And this split is brilliantly, if painfully, shown in the officer incident.
The officer, a key moment.
He recounts this intense, festering humiliation after being moved like a fly by a 6-foot officer in a tavern, just physically disregarded.
And the spite lingered for years.
Fueling these elaborate revenge fantasies, writing an expose, challenging him to a duel. All in his head, mostly.
Until the actual revenge, which was
A meticulously planned, carefully orchestrated shoulder bump on Nevsky Prospect. Just bumping into the guy.
It seems so petty on the surface.
Totally. But what's pivotal is that this tiny act was his desperate attempt to reclaim some dignity, wasn't it?
Against the world that literally just pushed him aside.
Exactly. This event, though it seems trivial, it just perfectly captures his boundless vanity, but also his profound lack of moral courage.
Driven by that paralyzing fear of ridicule, he couldn't even talk about his point of honor in ordinary language.
Why not?
He was terrified of being laughed at by his peers, the very people he despised but whose approval he secretly craved.
So the victory of the shoulder bump.
For him, it was about preserving his dignity, being publicly on an equal social footing, proving he existed and mattered.
But it was ultimately hollow, wasn't it?
Completely. Followed by days of ecstasy, feeling like he'd won, and then, predictably, nauseated repentance and self-loathing.
It's such a vivid picture of someone living entirely inside their own head, where tiny slights become these epic internal battles.
And that hollow victory, that cycle of pride and regret, it leads him straight into probably the most dramatic encounter of his life.
The Liza episode.
Right, in the fashion shock.
The euphemism for a brothel.
Yes, where he tries to save Liza, a young prostitute.
And he delivers this long, really pathetic speech.
Painting pictures, as he says, of her grim future. Misery, death, and the Haymarket.
With slush, muck, wet snow in the grave. It's
Yeah.
brutal imagery.
He details how she'll be utterly forgotten, her name disappearing from the face of the earth as if you'd never existed.
It's almost theatrical in its cruelty.
But his motivation here is incredibly complex and, well, deeply flawed.
He admits it wasn't just compassion, right?
No. He says he waxed pathetic because the game that fascinated me. Not just the game, however. There was something else driving him.
He even admits speaking stiffly, affectedly, even bookishly.
Reflecting how he was used to thinking and imagining everything from books, his reality was shaped by literature.
Yet, he also sensed that I'd be understood, and that this very bookishness might even help things along. He knew how to manipulate.
But Liza's reaction is the crucial counterpoint here. She sees through it.
Ow.
She understood from it all what a woman, if she loves sincerely, always understands before anything else, namely, that I myself was unhappy.
Wow. She saw past his performance to his own suffering.
Exactly. So the insight there is maybe that even in calculated cruelty, an unhappy person projects their pain. And sometimes someone compassionate sees it.
And then comes this incredibly rare moment, pure human connection.
It's astonishing when it happens.
Liza rushed to me, threw her arms about my neck, and burst into tears.
And he too could not help myself and broke into such sobbing as had never happened to me before.
He barely manages to get out. They won't let me. I can't be good.
It's a breathtaking glimpse of genuine emotion. A crack in the underground facade.
But that fragile moment just shatters, doesn't it? Almost instantly.
It can't last. His hysterics did have to end, and he immediately felt awkward and ashamed.
Ashamed to look her in the eye.
He felt the roles had reversed, that she was now the heroine, and I was the same crushed and humiliated creature.
Yeah.
He couldn't stand being the vulnerable one.
And this triggered something dark in him.
A feeling of domination and possession, a passion and envy that was almost like revenge.
He chillingly admits, for me to love meant to tyrannize and to preponderize morally. Love equals control for him.
So his next act, giving her money.
It comes out of malice, a cruelty that came not from my heart but from my stupid head.
And his later attempt to justify it, saying the insult will elevate and purify her.
Pure self-deception. He's utterly incapable of genuine connection or love. He pushes it away the moment it appears.
He can't escape his own psychological prison.
And this inability to act with integrity isn't just with others, it's right there in his home.
With Apollon, his servant.
Right, a man who despised me even beyond all measure and over whom the narrator admits he could not be victorious.
He couldn't stand Apollon's lisp and his haughtiness.
This little domestic power struggle, it feels like a perfect microcosm of his larger inability to assert himself effectively or with any real integrity.
Absolutely. He fails even in his own space, with someone technically subordinate to him.
So if we connect all this back to Dostoevsky's broader work, what's the big theme emerging here?
A central one is definitely the plurality of the person, the idea that humans are inherently multifaceted, contradictory.
As opposed to the simplistic ideal of the healthy, undivided man of action that rationalist theories propose.
Exactly. The underground man's inner disharmony, his dividedness, is also the source of consciousness.
So the messiness is actually where awareness comes from.
But Dostoevsky seems to portray this inner movement, even with all its suffering, as a condition of spiritual good. He rejects any neat, tidy ideal of humanity.
The insight being that our internal contradictions, however painful, might be the very source of our awareness, our spiritual growth even.
It seems to be a core Dostoevskian idea, yes.
And it's vital to remember the historical context too, right?
Absolutely crucial. The two parts of the novel reflect two historical moments, two climates of opinion.
The sentimental literary 1840s in part 2.
And the rational, utilitarian 1860s in part 1.
It's like the time of the liberals and the time of the nihilists.
Right. Nihilists being those thinkers rejecting traditional values, morals, beliefs.
And Dostoevsky was deeply concerned about the responsibility of the liberal generation for the emergence of the nihilists.
He worried that a certain kind of well-meaning but naive idealism could inadvertently pave the way for a destructive rejection of all values. It's a sharp social commentary.
This also brings us back to the importance of the translation we mentioned earlier, the Pivir and Volokhonsky one.
Yes, their choices really matter.
Like translating the Russian word zloy as wicked instead of just spiteful.
That choice highlights the deeper moral dimension, not just psychological. It aligns with Dostoevsky's focus on spiritual states.
And preserving the bluntness of words like wanting Kotny and prophet Vigoda.
Right. The original Russian is deliberately raw, repetitive, emphatic, heavy-handed, rude, as the intro puts it.
So smoothing that out would lose something.
It would chasten and thus distort the voice of this man who is nothing but a voice. It would weaken his defiant insistence on individual will against determinism. The translation respects Dostoevsky's art.
Ultimately, the narrator gives us this profound, almost heartbreaking final confession.
It's quite something.
He knows he's lying in his notes. He knows it is not at all the underground that is better, but something different, completely different, which I thirst for but cannot ever find.
He feels deep shame, calls his writing corrective punishment for himself.
And he concludes that we've all grown unaccustomed to life, we're all lame, preferring to experience life from a book.
It's a bitter indictment of his own detachment, but maybe ours too. Our collective distance from raw, messy, living life.
And what's really challenging is how he turns that criticism outwards right at us.
Yeah, with that famous line, "I have merely carried to an extreme in my life what you have not dared to carry even halfway."
Oof, that hits home.
It suggests he's not just some weird anomaly. He's an extreme reflection of universal tendencies, especially in modern society.
He forces us, you, the listener, to maybe examine our own evasions, our own hypocrisies.
Our own hidden corners where we might prefer the neat package from a book over the complex, painful reality of living life. He holds up a very uncomfortable mirror.
So wrapping this up, what does this deep dive mean for you?
Well,
The underground man, for all his contradictions, all his unpleasantness, he forces us to confront some pretty uncomfortable truths.
about human nature, definitely.
Yeah.
About the limits of pure reason.
And the enduring, often destructive power of irrational desires.
He poses that stark question. Are we content with cheap happiness or lofty suffering? Is that the only choice?
Or is there something else altogether we should be striving for?
And this deep dive really shows us that Dostoevsky's formal inventiveness, the conflicting tones, the odd structure, it's not just for show.
It's not just stylistic flair.
No, it's an artistic expression of the complex reality of the human being. It reflects the link between artistic form and what it means to be a living person.
He knew that messy, paradoxical reality couldn't be captured by neat formulas or simple stories.
Exactly. The form is part of the meaning.
So consider this as you go about your day.
Mm.
The underground man, in his desperate, often pathetic attempts to prove he's a man, not a piano key, not a sprig in an organ.
His struggle to assert his humanity.
He ultimately reveals that the true living life that Zavia isn't found in logical formulas or predictable systems.
It's found in the messy, contradictory, often painful struggle for individual will,
Mm.
even if that will leads to suffering.
So the final thought maybe is, what parts of that raw, unpredictable living life do you perhaps still shy away from?